We love coffee and chatting, but we also love connecting. Welcome to Coffee with Val, a place where we will get to know the story behind the professional. Grab your mug, because I'll start the coffee with one secret ingredient. To find out more, keep listening. Coffee with Val, where the most important ingredient is you. Episode number 2, Coffee with Kari and Val. Let's get to know Kari Neira a little bit more. Hi, welcome everyone. This is Val with Coffee with Val. And today we have a special guest. She's coming from the English side. Something that I love about her is her passion about the English language, about people. And today, let's grab our mugs and enjoy this conversation. So today's guest is Kari Neira. Hi, Kari. How are you?
Hey, hello, Vale. I'm so thrilled to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
No, thank you for saying yes to this virtual coffee. So,
of course, I do have my tea though, because I'm not a coffee person myself. I'm more like a tea person. So I hope you don't mind.
Understand. So, related to your background and story, could you tell us how did you end up being an English coach, language coach?
Yeah, well, actually, there is this funny story I always tell my students when they feel anxious about speaking in English and all that stuff, or even hate it, because they find it very hard to be good at it. And I always tell this story that actually, when I was a child, I hated English. My parents they forced me to go. My mother was always telling me, oh, you should do this. I mean, when you're grown up, you will thank me. And I would say, how come I thank her this is a torture? I cried every time I had to sit for an exam, like by the end of the year at the Cultural and all that stuff. I cried. And I think that actually I developed some foreign language anxiety, because every time I had to speak in English at school, or even in the English classes themselves, I kind of panicked. It was like, oh my gosh. And well, the thing is that that went on my childhood till I became a teenager, and I found out that I could do lots of things with English. I found out that I could communicate with other people from other parts of the world, that I could understand lyrics from songs, that I could actually, at that time, I'm not that as young as you. So at that time, there was no internet connection. Things were different. So it was more like reading books in English. And I found out that I was pretty good at it, that I even had a good pronunciation, I was told in those days. So I said, well, maybe I do have a knack for this after all. And that's why when I ended up secondary school, I decided to go into teachers training college. But it's something I kind of discovered during my teenage years. But before that, it was a complete torture. Wow. So who would believe it, right? Who would believe it?
No one. And tell us a little bit about your background. Now that you end up being an English and language coach, because you also are speaking Portuguese, right?
No Portuguese. I do teach. My consultancy used to teach Portuguese, but I don't speak Portuguese myself.
Not a little bit?
No, not at all.
Is that true what people say that, since you speak one language, the other languages will be easier for you?
I absolutely agree. And that's because that's coming back to this principle of neuroplasticity. You know, once your brain starts exercising and kind of learning new languages, then you kind of develop the muscle in such a way that it gets easier to pick up new knowledge. So yeah, it must be true, but to be honest, I haven't tried it myself. I mean, I had too much with Spanish and English already, so I stayed here, but I never say never, because, you know, I will be learning forever, whatever, so I don't know.
And I'm once scared that if you want to learn a language, the easier one is English, but is the hardest to master it. Is that true?
I believe it's easiest in the sense that it might seem the grammar is a little bit complicated, but once you learn like the basic structures, I think it gets easier. And then we get so much exposure as well from the telly. I mean, everything is in English. Besides accents, right? I'm not talking about whether American or British or which is best. I mean, I don't care about that. But the truth is that we are so much exposed to the English language that we pick it up. So it's kind of everywhere, you know? I mean, honestly, you walk, the street and there are lots of signs. I mean, there are lots of things actually you think that word is part of our vocabulary in Spanish, and then you realize, well, but actually this is a word in English that I just kind of, you know, assume as I use it every day, but it's an English word.
And how long does it take you to master the English? And then if you can tell us a little bit about the switch on the career. First of all, tell us what you've been doing lately, and then the shift post coronavirus.
Yeah. Well, it depends. It depends at what age you start learning a language. I have got a teenage adolescent. I mean, she's 15, and during pandemic, she started learning English twice a week with a personal kind of training, you know, where the teacher would go and cater for her needs in particular. And what I mean by this is that she would bring along comics and you know, and the manga things she loves and all that stuff. And she started learning English in 1 year, and she speaks fluently with very good pronunciation, coming from me, of course. And I mean, it's just, just because the teacher was smart enough to know how to approach the lesson so that she would really get motivated and benefit from it. And so there was no course book, just movies and songs and things, you know, to feel really motivated at talking about and reading about. And so I think that's the key. So it depends on who your teacher is, of course, and even if you're an adult, you need to make it very clear to your language coach what your needs are, and that you're 100% focused on communication, because then you can know a lot about grammar. I mean, I remember I got lots of students who were very good at grammar, I mean, written exercise, but then they could hardly speak. So, I mean, there was like a gap, you know, between what they could actually produce when it came, I mean, in writing, and what they could actually do when they had to deliver a presentation in English. So I think that at any age, you can learn honestly. You can learn at any age. Of course, there are certain moments in our lives where there is this window. We call it like a learning window, where it's much more easier because our brains are much more plastic when you are younger. And so at the age of puberty and then teenage ages, I mean, when there is a remodeling in our brain, then it's easier to pick up a language. But then neuroplasticity is for the rest of our lives. So it doesn't mean that when you're 60, you can't learn a language. Maybe it's going to take you a little bit more, and it's going to be a little bit tougher, but you can still learn.
This is Coffee with Val.
Amazing. And before you answer the question on the shift in your career, why do you think that no one teaches phonetics in primary school, in secondary school, even at the university? You get phonetics at the university and academic world, but that moment you are like, I don't know, 25 years old.
Yeah, well, that's a big question. I never understood why, really. Most probably is because it's one of the most hated subjects at teachers training college because it's one of the hardest. And there is quite a controversial thing about pronunciation these days. Like there is this kind of new movement that says that actually it doesn't really matter your pronunciation as long as you are intelligible. That is, as long as people understand what you're saying, then it's not so important that you have an American accent or a British accent or whatever. However, as a teacher, since you are a model to follow, then it is advisable that your pronunciation should be good enough, you know? Of course, I'm not a native speaker of English. I mean, I was born in Argentina, and all the training that I've had is because I love pronunciation, and I've actually specialized in phonetics. But it's not a must, although I believe as a teacher, you should have good sounds to be able to model sounds. Yeah, but I think that but teachers in general hate pronunciation. I would say that because it's so difficult. Yeah, and then also, you know, there are so much content to teach, that if you were to teach pronunciation as well, and if you don't know how to do it, if you don't know how to integrate pronunciation with grammar, then it's very difficult. In my experience, is the best approach is to teach them integratively. You know, like you integrate the sounds with the grammar. So as long as you teach one thing, you teach the other. They go hand in hand. They should go hand in hand.
I remember one teacher. I was 19. I didn't know what to do, I didn't know what to study, and I loved English since I was a kid, but we didn't have the money to pay it. So I went to my mom and I said, you know what? I don't know. I love art. I love music, and I don't know what to do. And she told me, okay, you love English since you were little, why don't you go to this teacher that is across the street, and then we will see. And I told my mom, no, I don't want to go there because we cannot pay for it. I don't know. I don't want to go to a place that I will end up loving and have to be removed. And she told me, go to the first class and we will see. So long story short, I attended the full year. And at the moment that we have to do the oral exam, I wasn't prepared because my teacher never prepared me. So she told me, you know what, why don't you take another year and then give the exam? And I told my mom, and my mom told me, what? You go and give the exam, it doesn't matter. So I went on, despite that my teacher told me, no, don't do that because you're not prepared. Yeah, I wasn't prepared because you didn't prepare. So I was super afraid, and I give the exam, and I barely passed it. And long story short, the next month, they open up like 1 month, one level. And I've been saving for my birthday that was on Christmas, near to Christmas. And I paid the 1 month, one level. And up to the third out of 4 week, I didn't understand anything at all. And the teacher was looking at me and saying, Valeria, are you okay? I didn't even know how to reply. And I was, yes, okay. So none of that makes sense. But it's like my ear is like opening up. And on the 4th week, I was able to understand a lot. In my exam, the oral was 9, and the next year was 10. So 1 month ago, I got a 5, and the other month I got a 9. So it's like it wasn't my fault completely, but it also depends on the teacher, as you had said.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And yeah, I agree. And it's also important for the teacher to work on your interests and likes. And I know you have a knack for music and that you play the violin and all that stuff. So I'm not surprised that you were much better at the oral exam, because most probably your listening skills were much more developed than the grammar or the vocabulary, and that happens a lot. So as a teacher, you need to be really aware that might happen and adapt your own teaching skills to your students.
Oh, I love it. So tell us about your shift on career.
All right. So, well, for most of my life, of course, I've been an English teacher specialized in business English. I founded my own language English consultancy, and I did corporate training for more than 20 years. And then I started like my own personal discovery path like 10 years ago, when I felt I was exhausted and I felt I kind of didn't want to teach anymore, which was pretty alarming because I have always loved teaching and it's my passion. And so from that moment on, I started like revisiting, what was happening inside myself, like digging and going like deeper, inquiring myself. And I believe that it's because I started that self-discovery path that I came up with mindfulness. I mean, I just came across mindfulness and some other techniques for just get to know myself a little bit more. And during the pandemic, as it happened to many people I know, I kind of had to reinvent myself because most of my clients closed down. This economic crisis hit many corporations, and I kind of lost many of my huge clients. And so I decided I really wanted to go deeper into mindfulness. And although I had already started bringing mindfulness into my lessons as a way to cope with language anxiety and help my students regulate emotions and anxiety where they had to speak in English, I said, well, let's go even deeper. Let's go for it. And so there is something I've always liked, and is new challenges. That's being something quite present in my life. I think it's part of my traits or personal traits, like the fear. I have always thought myself as a fearful person and like afraid of things. But now looking back, I do realize that I was even more courageous than I thought and braver. So that's my courage was even greater than my fear. And that is what helped me, I think, to face different challenges as this one, with a positive note, and well, let's see what happens. I kind of said, well, what is the worst that could happen? Well, going back to teaching English at schools, which is something I hate. I've never liked teaching English at schools. I love the corporate world. But anyway, and what's the best that could happen? And actually, the best that could happen would be that it will be a good experience and successful, and being able to help other people in other ways. And it was, because I'm doing really well. I'm being invited to deliver talks about mindfulness and education, sometimes about mindfulness in companies. I'm delivering a 6-week program to reduce stress. So I've gone into different social media. I kind of learned, how to deal with Instagram and YouTube. And well, I love challenges, as I said before, and the fear is not going to stop me. So that's something I really treasure about myself, and I'm very proud of. And it's that I whenever I feel I cannot do it, then I find the courage and the strength to do it. And I don't know where it comes from, but it's there.
Wow, amazing. So tell us about a little bit of your family, and what does it look like to be one day, or being Kari one day, I don't know, in your daily basis?
Wow, I'm kind of versatile because I've got many roles. Mostly I'm a mom of 2 teenage. I'm a mom, I'm a housewife, and I'm a mindfulness instructor. Sometimes I'm a language coach. So I've got many different roles. And that's actually what I love about it, because I'm never bored. I never get bored. It's like I'm always in the move and changing. So I get up very early in the morning because my children get to school by 7:30, and I live very far away from downtown. So I've got to commute, and it's kind of hard. When I was teaching at companies, I had like one class to the next, like back to back. So, and I did lots of preparation before a lesson, because I don't go by the book. I don't use course books. It's just very, very tailor-made. And so it kind of required that I would do some digging and research before, preparing for a lesson, which were very specific, from different language topics like finance, marketing, human resources, different variety. And so I studied, before delivering a lesson, I studied what I was going to teach. So yeah, it's pretty hectic, really. Okay,
and related to that, what can you tell us is a fun fact about you, or how do you enjoy your Fridays, like a fun Friday?
Okay, well, a fun fact is it could be that I love going camping. Maybe that's something you didn't know about me. I love outdoors, and that's my favorite type of vacation, going camping, especially in Patagonia, Argentina. So I truly love it. And in general, on Fridays, I don't teach. I take the day off to do lots of stuff and maybe prepare my week, prepare lessons, prepare Instagram posts, or maybe scripts for YouTube videos or meditations I will be recording. In general, I get up very early, and when I do not have to take my kids to school, I go for a walk, and then I take a shower. Maybe I do some yoga, and then I have this playlist, for Friday, just to uplift a little bit the spirits. And it's Friday, so you're kind of approaching the weekend. So Fridays tend to be pretty quiet, and I intend to keep it that way for my mental sanity, and and I think it's worked really well so far for me. So I hope I can continue having my Fridays quiet. Amazing. And stress-free Fridays. I like that.
And what can you tell us for the people, the listeners that are just tuning in, and they love English, but they don't have the resources, or maybe they tried many times and they couldn't find what they were looking for. What can you tell them?
Find a teacher who truly inspires you and motivates you and caters for what you really need, not what is easier for the teacher. Okay, I think that, and this is not so easy to find, because you need a language coach that is really agile and flexible and professional. And I'm not saying it's easy, but there are very good language English trainers there that you can find and can help you upskill yourself, can help you communicate effectively in English, which I think leaders today need the most, to be able to communicate their ideas clearly, impactfully, and you need someone who's there by your side, giving you support, and not just language support, but also emotional support.
Amazing. Well, just to wrap it up, we have a motto at CoffeeWVal, which is, why not release your own sound? So how can we encourage someone to release their own sound? Because sometimes they are kind of blockage thoughts, and they're not so brave or so courageous to go ahead and, subscribe to, a 1 month, one level.
Yeah, I think, mindfulness has helped me get in touch with my emotions and understand myself, know myself, and navigate the different, emotional states that sometimes were blocking me from reaching my goals. So what I would say is just take some time off and get off autopilot. Connect with what you like the most, and from there probably you will find your inner voice and your own intuition as to what is best for you. Many times we are afraid to show to the world who we really are, because we are afraid of being judged, or we are afraid of not being liked, or we are afraid of being rejected. And that's something that happens to everyone. We all share that. It's shared humanity. So once you get to know yourself and I believe it's what happened to me. You become more courageous than you think you are, and because the courage is there, you just have to cultivate it and nourish it. And the fear is just this emotion we don't want to feel, but the fear is just coming from our sense of protection. So it's okay to feel fear. But don't let that fear control your life and whatever you want. Remember, there are no losses, all gains. I think that there is no way in which you can fail. Mm-hmm. The way in which I see it, there is no failure, only opportunities for growth and change.
Amazing. I just love it. So where does the audience can find you on social media?
They can find me mostly, I'm on Instagram. You can find me with enraizar con mindfulness or enraizar with mindfulness. I have a Spanish account and an English account. I'm also on YouTube. So if you want to find some tips for mindfulness and to reduce stress and anxiety, meditations, there's good stuff there in English and Spanish as well. And of course on LinkedIn.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Kari, for being with us. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the week.
Thank you. Oh, it's been lovely talking to you. I hope you like this chat, and let's get in touch.
Amazing. Bye-bye.
Bye.
These are the results in our last survey related to podcasts for 2022 in Coffee with Val.
We launched a poll related to podcast in 2022. So what can you tell us about the results? Out of 6,100 people voted that they wanted us to suggest them a podcast regarding leadership and innovation. So what can you suggest to our audience, Coffee with Val, related to podcast?
Well, there is one podcast in particular I follow, which is Brene Brown's podcast, Unlocking Us. What I do love about her is that she talks about mindful leadership. She talks about self-compassion, shame, and all what we're talking about, about this feeling or fear of being rejected and not accepted by others. So I find her podcast truly inspiring. Although I must confess, I'm not much of a person who likes podcasts in particular, though I do have one because I do have my own with Enraizar with Mindfulness, where you can find a very long list of meditations in Spanish so far. But I confess, I do not listen to too many podcasts, though I think that sooner I start doing so. I think it's what's coming, right?
Yes.
It's the new trend, the podcast.
Yes, you will. I just name, I'm going to name a few that I love listening to. But on this poll, I want the people to let me know what they like, what their preferences are. And I just put jazz music, that was number one. Another one was how to be an interpreter at 30. The other one was leadership, and the other one was cooking. And for my surprise, they voted also cooking, being an entrepreneur at 30, and the music thing. So I think that it depends on your preferences. You will find a lot. I most likely love English podcasts, and I will recommend my favorite ones. One is from Craig Groeschel. I cannot pronounce his last name, but he is amazing at leading people. And he will give you tips to improve your leadership skills. And it doesn't matter if you don't have the skills or your personality is more like a controller. Instead of empowering a team, he will give you tips and advice in just 20 minutes, 30 minutes, no longer than that. And you will, each time you're listening to him, you will learn not only about leading people in a corporate world, but in your life and family. Another, that's the leadership podcast. Another podcast that I love is about a coach. Her name is Valerie Barton. She has written 15 books so far. She has won several recognition in the New York bestseller authors. She's also a speaker, personal coach, and a lot of other things. But the way she communicates not only in their audio, but on the podcasts, on YouTube, but also on the books. I read one of her books, and it's How to Become Brave. And the women that are brave are like unstoppable. So I super recommend her.
I love it.
Yeah,
I will.
And also she mentioned that she switched careers because she studied to become a journalist, and suddenly she became more aware of the need of this change, and that's how she became a paid speaker, coach. And also she mentioned in one of her books that she has to go under divorce at the age of 30 something. And that was also tough for her because she was well known for this and that. And then all of a sudden she has to recover from that experience. So it's really inspiring. Those are my two related leadership. And for musicians, there are a lot of good ones. But I would suggest your audience to just dig in deep, not only in Spanish, but also in English. There are so material, so much people out there just sharing what they love in an innovative way that you don't have the time for all the good stuff out there. So that's my suggestion.
Thank you for sharing. I will definitely go into that.
This was Coffee with Val. Thank you for listening.